Hey, everybody. Always excited to dive into the world of AI and automation with UiPath with a special guest today. Grant, how are you?
Very good today, Evan. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for joining. So much is happening in our industry and at UiPath. We want to dive deep. Before that, maybe introduce yourself and your role at UiPath. And for those few people who haven't heard of UiPath, how do you describe yourself these days?
Absolutely. I'm Grant Bodley, and I lead our high-tech industry solutions team at UiPath. I focused on high-tech and semiconductor for most of my career, starting in the industry, and then more recently established the high-tech and semiconductor industry practices at SAP for about 8 years, and then went on to big data and analytics, led the IBM consulting practice for North America for high tech, and more recently incubated the manufacturing industry vertical globally at AWS. And very happy to be at UiPath here. I think we've got an incredible opportunity to really help accelerate things within high tech and semiconductor.
A fantastic opportunity. So much change, disruption happening in the semiconductor space, the whole supply chain, of course. You were recently at a huge event, Semicon West, really a who's who of the industry were there. What were some of the big challenges, some of the takeaways you saw from the semiconductor manufacturers, their OEMs, and others right now?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a very interesting time in this industry. And, despite powering the generative AI boom, semiconductor manufacturers have often lagged behind other industries in areas such as process automation, where we really excel. And the recent pandemic really highlighted these challenges in the supply chain and, on the shop floor, with lead times that stretched for more than 6 months, with chip shortages slowing down almost every industry from automotive to agriculture. And many of these challenges are due to complex, manual, disconnected processes that really have kept these semiconductor manufacturers back from operating at peak performance, and really adding to lead times, impacting customer service levels for the brand owners as they collaborate and interact with their suppliers and contract manufacturers. Now, these challenges that were highlighted in the pandemic are being compounded now by the reshoring of manufacturing, which really is energized by a once in a generation set of incentives known as the CHIPS Act, which was recently described by Pat Gelsinger, CEO of Intel, as one of the most important industrial policies since World War II, with
Mm.
the goal of increasing supply chain resilience and doubling semiconductor manufacturing capacity by 2030. So I'll just pause there and I'll sort of add to that as we go.
Yeah, thanks for framing the discussion. Really important topic. And enter AI and automation, something UiPath knows a lot about. How can it help? Short term, long term?
Yeah, so before we get there, maybe we can just highlight, three key challenges that manufacturers face as they look to reshore to the US. Firstly, a severe labor shortage is developing. With
Mm.
the Semiconductor Industry Association estimates that 58% of the roughly 115,000 new jobs, mostly for engineers and technicians, are likely to go unfilled just due to the lack of experienced process engineers in the US. So that's the first thing, labor shortage. And the second key factor is there's a significant cost gap or increasing cost in manufacturing in the US versus in areas such as Taiwan. And the founder of
Mm.
TSMC actually mentioned that there's a probably cost of around 50% more to produce chips in the US, which is a major challenge. So a lot of these challenges can be addressed by really putting AI and automation to work so that these operations can be more productive and less human handoffs, and it'll really allow humans to focus on higher value work.
Yeah, which is something we can all appreciate. I use UiPath for outsourcing all the mundane back end marketing tasks that go on with production, post production, and editing. I won't go there, but specifically in the semico industry, what are the use cases? There's a lot of legacy processes. It's actually quite an old industry when you think about, going back to the, 70s with the rise of
Yeah.
semiconductors. How can, automation make a difference?
So the good news is to address these challenges. Automation is being put to work. In some of the most advanced manufacturing facilities on the planet,
Mm,
to bridge disconnected processes and systems, and really focus on improving yield and minimizing error. So, for example, we have hundreds of automation savvy process engineers who really, these are process engineers that really know how to put together automations in some of the most sophisticated manufacturing operations on the planet, really leveraging UiPath to roll out these automations across hundreds of machines that have thousands of production steps, that have different proprietary UIs and data formats, and really allow them to focus on improving yield and quality versus a lot of the manual handoffs and data collection across all of these different machines to make decisions as they go. So that, bearing that in mind, there are some top, key use cases that come to mind. So in addition to supply chain and manufacturing, within engineering, there's a key focus for automation, which is around software product testing. And from a semiconductor perspective, this is a good example would be testing firmware for new revisions of software,
mm,
and test and doing generate, leveraging Gen AI to, instead of manually generating all of the test cases, the test results, running the tests, updating the results, up to 20% of engineer time can actually be saved by automating a lot of these manual steps. I've got some others within the supply chain and manufacturing if you'd like to hear a few more of those.
yeah, that'd be great. I mean, you help your clients integrate AI into their processes. What are the first, one, two, three steps a manufacturer needs to think about when integrating these advanced workflows and AI into their
Exactly.
processes? How do
Exactly.
you help?
Exactly. So I think one of the key areas to leverage AI is within business partner communications. So
Mm,
the customer base and supply base, let's say for a fabless semiconductor leader like an NVIDIA, the customers and suppliers are shifting dynamically. And the the old ways of having these static EDI and API connections just take too
mm,
long to set up, and things are shifting too quickly. So they are reverting back to email with attachments, in many cases, logging onto customer portals to commit orders and to initiate shipments. And whether they're collaborating on sales orders, purchase orders, invoices, whether they are collaborating on capacity or quality test results, a lot of those communications can be automated by putting specialized AI models for specific document types, like orders and invoices, that can be trained quickly to the specific requirements of a customer or a supplier. And for the inboxes to be monitored with communications mining, which really allows you to read the emails, understand the context, extract
mm.
the attachment, and really, you know, get the data elements that could then initiate the next steps in the workflow with a human in the loop to manage any exceptions. So that's a key area for AI and automation. And there's some more areas with the autopilot that are also equally exciting.
Yeah, I bet. That's fantastic. So the key topic from Semico West was supply chain resilience, up and down, sideways, back and forth across the supply
Exactly.
chain. That must have been a hot topic. How do you, see UiPath contributing to that sort of resilience, that philosophy of
Exactly. So
yeah.
yeah, so even though semiconductor manufacturers, the brand owners, outsource their manufacturing, they really like to have visibility and control through key milestone steps in the back end and the front end operations. And it's almost like a virtual manufacturing operation. So they want visibility and control, and they want to make decisions about what to do with those lots. So automating the communications that today, a large percentage is email with attachments, and having those specialized AI models to be able to read and understand and continue the workflow, that eliminates a lot of system lead time, which improves service levels and dramatically improves the way that the supply chains perform. In addition to the supply chain, we've got some very important use cases, in manufacturing, in the back end and front end operations. Things like automating tests in quality and reliability zones, where you've got all the test machines that have really old UIs, like Windows XP type UIs, that can only have the lightest weight agent that can interact with those UIs to be able to automate a lot of the testing. For example, technicians have to manually enter the XY locations of wafer hotspots to be tested based on the recipe, which is prone to human error, collection of the test data, the test results, and all that sort of thing, looking for anomalies and patterns across the wafer lot. A lot of that is being automated today. And there's some other interesting use cases to keep track of the many machines that are flagged for maintenance, keeping maintenance schedules in sync with production schedules, and also, cutting the shift handover time and effort in the process in half, where the outgoing shift needs to highlight unresolved issues and hand those over to the next shift for them to, address those. So, there's just some of the many use cases that AI and automation can really make a difference in improving yield, quality, and throughput.
Oh, fantastic. I read a lot about how automation can help with sustainability, automated systems helping streamline logistics, reducing transportation times and fuel, energy consumption. That must be even more important in the semico supply chain. What are you seeing there?
Exactly. One of the key areas that you touched on, earlier was supply chain resilience, and this has become a boardroom topic today. So the challenge is, for some of the large semiconductor brand owners, they, in their new product introduction process, they need to shift from the lowest cost supplier for their components to dual sourced components from resilient suppliers, and to resiliency assess the entire bill of materials. And when you're talking about a bill of materials with 700 items or components, to be able to resiliency assess dual sourcing of all of those and do that quickly, it involves a massive amount of email communication with attachments back and forth between the brand owner, engineers, and their suppliers, and ultimately result in a scoring rubric to assess the resilience of that bill of materials, so that they can provide a reference design back to the OEM customers that they are confident in the resilience of. So automating a lot of those communications can accelerate new product introduction, and that's become a really tedious process for engineering and procurement in that whole cycle, which we've been able to address with automations that can be complementary to what they're doing today, really be put in place fairly quickly, and really have a meaningful impact at accelerating new product introduction times.
A fantastic result. We're in an era of doing more with less. Everyone's on the same page. It's nowhere more obvious than in the semiconductor industry. Squeezing more out of every process and employee, and reducing operating expenses. How do you connect it, what you do with AI and automation with that bottom line, is like packaging or procurement or manufacturing? What are clients telling you about the bottom line impact?
Yeah, so almost all of our customers today have significant efficiency goals, and we've had heads of operations of most of the prominent semiconductor and high tech manufacturers approach us to say, how do I put AI and automation to work in my supply chain, in my manufacturing operations? And we've been able to put together, we have points of view from an OEM perspective, as well as semiconductor brand owners and contract manufacturers. But really, there are many different use cases. We also have a very close partnership with SAP.
Mm,
We've actually architected many joint use cases, across the SAP portfolio of business processes that relate specifically to high tech and semiconductor manufacturing. So, in addition to SAP environment that's fairly dominant, there are many different tools for supply chain planning. There could be Blue Yonder, Kinaxis in the mix, in addition to SAP's IBP. And within the supply chain, even though you've got fairly established business networks like Ariba in place, there's still a lot of last mile human handoffs, emails, attachments, those kinds of things. That last mile that really slows the process down, adds lead time, adds inaccuracies, prevents or shortens the window to respond quickly to address any supply chain shortages, quickly without impacting customer service. Those are the kinds of really, needle moving impacts that AI and automation is being applied to right now, across high tech and within the semiconductor supply chain.
phenomenal. So the other challenge that the industry faces is finding skilled workforce, folks with experience, particularly in semiconductor manufacturing, pretty hard to come by. It's even delaying the rollout of fabs and foundries. So how do you do more with the skilled workforce you have, and how do we narrow those gaps when it comes to that workforce?
Yeah, so several of our customers have major process engineer and technician onboarding automations so that we can automate the hiring and the training and the onboarding process, and to get that done as effectively and quickly as possible. So reducing the actual time it takes for new technicians and process engineers to actually ramp up. There are, significant hiring numbers going on right now, and also there's quite a lot of movement of employees between companies, which is also very disruptive. But really accelerating their onboarding, getting them productive a lot faster, but also enabling them to become citizen developers with UiPath, understanding our suite of intelligent automations and allowing them to actually initiate those. And with our new autopilot, they can actually use English language to, in English, describe a workflow automation. And the autopilot can actually generate the first revision of that they can then tailor for their specific needs, for a specific use case. So there's a lot of accelerators. Also, part of the mission and goal of UiPath is to democratize automation and provide low code, no code tools to business users like process engineers, so that they can roll out these automations and not be constrained by IT, and also not have to have a deep coding background either. So really putting that in the
Mm,
hands of the business.
wow, super powerful. I always look to you guys for future trends. Be looking forward to Forward again in the fall. Any preview of what's trending, what's top of mind to you and the team at a high level, and what can we look forward to?
Yeah, I think we are just getting started here. I think, for most companies, they've been very successful in, areas of the business like finance, order to cash, in IT and HR automations. It's equally relevant within supply chain, engineering, manufacturing, and that's really what we're going to focus on in enabling customers really to, instead of just looking at, productivity type gains for people, but really looking at shortening lead times, reducing inventories, accelerating supply chains, really making the existing homegrown manufacturing execution, quality, production control systems that have been honed in for years, but they don't really integrate well with other systems like supply chain management and engineering. But through our automations, we can make those existing systems and processes work seamlessly together at a much faster rate. And we can really allow those companies to, achieve the goals that they have with the incredible investment that's been seeded. More than 450 billion has been seeded for investment for US semiconductor production expansion, until 2030. So to make that successful, to de-risk that, automation is an absolute must. And through our automations, the ability to use specialized AI models to really automate those manual system handoffs, that last mile that makes all the difference in improving service levels. So really look forward to taking it to the next level of forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have so many blue chip names, clients that you work with, pretty much who's who in the industry. But care to call out any interesting examples or anecdotes or favorite children, as it were,
Yeah.
at this point in the high tech or manufacturing space?
Yeah, I mean, one of our um, reference customers is Intel, and
Mm,
we've got a very we have a great partnership with Intel, and which is getting strong by the day. But one of the focus areas has been actually leveraging machine learning and AI to de-risk global trade, and we're specifically talking about one aspect of global trade. Even though many of our customers are using SAP's global trade solution called GTS, there are some aspects some nuances related to trade, including the HTS code, or harmonized tariff schedule codes, which are codes that are country specific, and also are determined, the actual code is determined by the classification of the actual product, the characteristics of the product, the bill of lading, content, invoice, etc., can determine what the actual right code should be for that shipment of those products to transcend the border crossing. And within this high tech industry, with such a globally outsourced supply chain, some of these components can travel as much as 25,000 miles and cross around 70 border crossings. So with companies like
wow.
Intel that have millions of shipments, being able to use AI ML to actually automatically determine in a almost hands-off process today, whereas in the past, shipments were being held up at border crossings with all kinds of implications. That's a massive step forward, and just one example of some of the great things we're doing with Intel.
Wow. Well, that's quite a mic drop moment. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for the insight into the amazing work you're doing. Can't wait to hear what's next. Onwards and upwards. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you, Evan. Really great talking with you today, and very excited about what we have ahead of us. Thank you.
Likewise. And thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. Check out UiPath.com. Just amazing content and insight available right on the website. Take care, everyone.